Welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Sean Zerbis, Technical Evangelist at CTC, and I am looking forward to talking with you today about the Family Loader, which is a free tool off the BIM Batch Suite. Now, first, let's talk about what it is we're going to cover. So, standards do change over time. They really do. It's a reality. All of our firms, we change our minds at some point, and when we do this, when we try to go correct or update some kind of an old standard, in many cases in Revit specifically, this requires reloading a family or a whole bunch of families into either my active project or multiple projects. Now, the problem is this is a really manual process to do. It's not the most fun. You can do this by hand, of course, by opening up each project one by one and then reloading the families by giving it a list of stuff to load in, and it'll do it, but you have to sit there and babysit it the entire time. But what's more efficient, I think, is this free tool from the Batch Suite called Family Loader. And this automates that process near 100%. So we're going to kind of talk about this today. I'm going to show you how you can get access to the Family Loader, where it is in the Revit UI once it's installed. We're going to talk about how to use the tool. I'm going to show you how you can efficiently load family content back into a project or reload it. And I'm going to show you, in case you don't have it yet, how you can get your hands on the suite. So you can download it, try it out. I mean, it's free, so it'll work forever. So you can use this suite. And I will also talk about a couple of workflows that can help save you some time in this process where the Family Loader plays a key role. I'm going to jump in live to this demonstration here in Revit and show you exactly where this tool is and how it works. So in Revit, I happen to be in Revit 2018. Yes, we have just recently updated all of our suites, and the new version now is 21. So 21.0.0 is out right now, and that's what I'm using here in today's webinar. You certainly can get that as well. Now that will install automatically on Revit 2017, 18, 19, 20, and 21, all 5 of the latest versions of Revit. So get it, install it, it'll update, does some great things. That's true also of our Manager and Project suites. So with the Batch Suite here, where you can find it is on the CTC software tab here in Revit, in all of the Revits. And from here on the BIM Batch Suite, these tools in purple, the tool that we're going to talk about today is the Family Loader. Now I've modified my suite settings so that I'm showing small icons. That automatically shows me all of the tools. If you don't have that, and by default when you first install it, there will be a very large free tools icon here with a drop-down. When you click on it, it'll show you suite settings, family exporter, family loader. So you can get it from that button if yours isn't actually on the ribbon yet. But I generally recommend using suite settings to make small icons, and that just lets you see all of the tools so people don't forget about the value of those free tools that are out there. All right, Family Loader, that's the tool we're talking about right now. When I click on the Family Loader button, it opens up the Family Loader interface, as you might expect it to. Now, this does require that I run this from a project or family environment. I have to have a file open to make this work initially. But once I have a file open, any file, doesn't matter, it could be an unsaved file, it's irrelevant, I can begin leveraging this tool. The primary function here of the Family Loader is to allow you to select a whole bunch of families that you want to load into a project or series of projects, to select the projects and or family files to have those families reloaded into. This, by the way, is a really good tool if you have a nested family and it's used across a whole bunch of other files and you want to reload it into all those nested, those host families. You can use this tool for that as well as a BIM Manager. So I can give it a family or a series of families, give it a project or a series of projects or families to load into, and then I simply click Load Families and it'll do that task. It'll do the loading. Now, when you're loading stuff in, there are a few really important options that you should be taking a serious look at, and it's these bottom half options down here. When you've given a list of families, so let me just go do this real quick. I'm going to let's go add a bunch of families to this list here. I'm going to go browse for some. I'm going to give a whole directory of content here. Go gadget browser. There we go. And in my drive here, I've got a folder where I had already exported some content from a model not too long back. So it's got a whole bunch of stuff here. I didn't tell it to search in the subfolder, but as soon as I do, it gives me a whole big list of a bunch of content. I'm going to grab all of it and tell all of it to load. All right. There's 131 files that this would be reloading if I was going to tell this to go. So it gives me the list. I can also then give it a project. Maybe I've got an architectural model that I want this to reload into. So I've got a Revit model here. We'll just look at that folder directly. Sorry, add a host project here. Browse for where this is. This is on my Revit models folder. There we go. And so I might take, say, this model here and add it to my list, right? So this might be a model where I want to load this content into it. Or maybe I've got a few of these models. Maybe I have, an interior kind of architectural fit out model and an exterior and core and shell basically model. So I can have both of those in the list. It will, this next little set of options will affect these two models while I'm working with this. The first option here, and the one that I most often use myself, is to only reload the families that already existed in those host files. So as it opens up this host file here, for each of the families it will look and see, first off, does baluster space dash space round exist in there in the first place? If it does not, it skips it. And it'll go to the next family, into the next family, into the next family, until it finds one that already existed. That's what this means, if it already existed in there. This way, I'm not just forcefully pushing into that project 131 families. Now, you can force it to do that. If you say load all families, if you give it a list, it will just push all 131 families in indiscriminately, whether they existed or not. And sometimes that's a good option. If I'm kicking a project off and I know I've got 5 models and I know all 5 models need the same title block, I might use this tool to give it the title block, give it those 5 models, and say load it no matter what, and it'll push it in. This is a great way of doing that. So you have to keep opening up the models yourself one by hand. When you're only reloading families, though, if this is the option that you're using, when you're updating stuff that's already in play, oftentimes I also tell it to only reload the types that already exist, because I may have modified families and I may have added types to it, and maybe I don't want to push all types in even. It's not all families, and I may also want all of the types, and so I can force it to only reload the types that it finds that already exist. So it actually looks at the family, opens it up, looks at the types, and then it loads it in. When I'm loading in the families, I was talking about the only reload families that already exist, or loading families into all projects indiscriminately. Most often I use the reload families, and I also like to use the only reload types if they already exist. Again, this helps me control my model's file size. Obviously, it's your choice. That's the purpose of this tool, is to give you choices. Just be aware of the ramifications of these choices. Okay, these 2 models up here, both of them are central files. It's not usually considered best practice unless you've pre-mentioned this to your team and got them out of their local copies. It's not usually best practice to directly open a central file, make changes, and save those changes while others are working in local copies. In most cases, you're going to create a disconnect, and it's going to break the work that they've done. That is not good. We don't want to do that as BIM managers. So instead, I always will create new local copies for the central files that I've got pathed here. Now, sometimes I will path directly to a local copy, okay? In that case, this will get ignored because I'm opening a local copy. But if you are pathing to a central, and this tool understands what is a central and what is a local copy, when I'm pathed to that central file, it'll automatically create me a new local, which is fantastic. Then when it opens up that new local copy, since I'm, in this case, reloading families especially, or if I was doing load all families and some of them were already in there, it's going to suppress the overwrite dialog box. See, if you don't do this step, if this is not on, and you're doing this reload manually by using insert load family, that dialog box for each family that's there already is going to pop up, and it's going to ask you what you want to do. Do you want to override the existing version, or do you want to override the existing version and its parameter values? Most of the time, we're using the same option over and over again, depending on what our reload intent is. If I'm just trying to update the definition of the family with some new parameters or updated parameters, I probably don't want to overwrite parameter values. If I'm truly replacing these families because something was broken, then I'm probably going to want to replace the parameter values as well. But it's up to me to make that choice. And here, I can suppress that dialog and pre-make that choice, either overriding the parameter values or overriding just the existing definition of the family. Uses the same options that it would in Revit natively. It's just automating the process. So you're not babysitting and clicking the box for this for all 133 families that are coming in. All right. Now, also, when this process is done, when it has reloaded all these families, then it's going to automatically save the host file. It is going to automatically sync those work shared files and relinquish the elements that you just borrowed from it. And then it's going to close those host files. You can also, if you wanted to, have it create a backup of the last saved host files. This is great if I'm doing things like, maybe reloading these families, and I'm also maybe upgrading a project at the same time. I may want this tool to auto create me a backup, and then it saves a new version of that. I don't use this myself very much, but that's your choice, of course. You can certainly use that. Ultimately, if I wanted this to process, I would click load families and I would go grab lunch. Okay. I don't want to sit here and babysit this process. That's the whole point of this tool, is I want to click a button and walk away and let it do a thing. And so I'll usually do this and then walk away and come back when it's done. The alternative to that, this model here, by the way, is the one that I'm actually in. So I'm going to use a slightly different technique here. I'm going to use the current document option. This one doesn't let me specify a list of families to bring back in and force load them. For that, I'd have to be out of that model and let it open it up and do something. But if I'm in the current document here, what this will do is it'll give me a list of all of the families in my current document that it knows about already. And all I have to do is simply check the boxes for the families that I want to force reload. I'm already telling it to suppress the overwrite existing version dialog or to overwrite the existing version and parameter values. I'm making that choice right here. It's force reloading them from whatever their original path was. It knows what they were. Now, in some cases, it might not know. Maybe somebody renamed a family in the project. It wouldn't know what its original file was then, because Revit drops what the original loaded path was at that point. Or if it can't find that original file at its original path, it won't be able to reload it. I know, because I exported all my families today, and then I made some modifications to these two. I can just right now force reload these. And so let's just kind of see what the data is right now so you can kind of see how this works. I'm going to go find one of those doors in my floor plan. So this guy right here is my swing single door. And if I edit the type data, one of the things that it has is some old outdated information here, old copyright, old manufacturer name, old, who created it name. This stuff's going to get updated. And so I'm going to force update that by having that door be reloaded, both that one and my double door. So to do that, I'm going to use the family loader, and I'm going to use it on my active model. So current document, I'm going to tell it about my doors, and I'm not going to load everything. I'm just going to load the two that I care about, these two right here. I'm going to overwrite the existing version. I happen to know that all the values that I overrode and modified were all formulas. So it doesn't matter which one of these two options I choose. Well, kind of doesn't matter. if I do this option and there was other parameter values that I may have modified or that the users modified in their project different than the original, that could cause a problem. So normally when a project is in production, unless I know I absolutely want to use this, I personally leverage this option. And I'm simply going to choose reload. And this is going to rip through. I did this manually earlier today just to kind of see what this process might look like. It took it a total of about 2.5 minutes for me to do this process in the manual way. About 2.5 minutes to go through and do all of it, because I had to sit there and prompt it. And if I wasn't fully paying attention, I would have to, click the button to choose what those options were. This right now is going through the regeneration process. It's nearly done. And I don't have to actually babysit this. I mean, I'm doing something else, right? I'm talking with you all on this webinar, and I'm not actually paying attention really to the window. At the end, it pops up with, this was done. And it reloaded the 3 types. And the 5 types in this case, it was all updated. There was nothing wrong with it. There was no errors. Now, if somebody had been working in their local copy and they had borrowed the definition of swing single or swing double, this would have given me an error. And it would have told me it couldn't reload it because somebody else already owned it. And it would let me know who that was. Just like if you were to do this manually in Revit, it would pop up a dialog saying you can't make this particular change because so-and-so owns the object. At which point, I would call that person up on the phone and be like, hey man, can you sync to Central? Don't touch this object for a while. They would do that. I would sync to Central to get the latest data. I would then run the reload. I would probably, before I'm doing this, have done that ahead of time. Honestly, I would have probably called them, called my team up or sent out a message in Teams or whatever you're using and said, hey guys, I'll sync to Central. I'm doing a family reload for whatever. Let them do their sync. I do my sync. Then I do this and I don't run into issues in the first place. I don't like having to do things a second time. So normally I will just do that. I will just let the team know what's going on. Ultimately though, once I've done this, okay, I'm going to close this all out. I'm going to go back to that door. Let's go take a look here, see if it did what I thought it was going to do. Hey, look at that. It's now got CTC software with copyright 2020 in the list. So it updated. Frame theory developed by CTC software. Again, it was a formulaic property. It updated it. I'm off and running. So simple process here to reload that content in. I did see a question roll through that said, or that asked if this works with BIM 360. And the answer is sort of. Remember, you can path to local copies. So if you can find your BIM 360 local file, I can tell this tool about it. It can open it up, make those edits, save it. Yes, it'll publish that to BIM 360. No, it cannot open a central model directly from BIM 360 yet. That is on our roadmap. We are working forward towards that. We do want to make that a possibility for you. If you have the model opened up and you're using the family loader by using the current document option, again, it's open in Revit. Yes, you can absolutely do that. Not a problem. So it works with BIM 360 models. It just can't use the host project. I can't assign a host project that is the central file that exists in BIM 360. It has to be a local copy. But you can still automate this workflow. Okay. So we've gone through the demonstration here of how it works. How do you get it if you don't already have it? Well, you go to ctcsoftware.com. And from ctcsoftware.com, you can go to the products page. This is the BIM Batch Suite. So it's BIM Batch Suite 2021 right here. All of our suites there are all 2021 right now. And you can try BIM Batch Suite free for 14 days, which makes the licensed tools work for 14 days and then they stop. But the tool we talked about today, the family loader, that is not a licensed tool. That's a free tool. It'll continue to work forever. So there's no need to worry about purchasing if you're looking for just that tool. So try BIM Batch Suite free for 14 days. That tool will continue to work always. If you do already have the suite, okay, you've already got it and you want to get 2021, well, that's great. In any one of our tools on all of our suites, if you go to the About box, you can go to download the latest suite installer and it'll take you directly to the download link. You can get that and you can publish that out for the entire team, install the 2021.0.0 tools for Batch Manager Project Suite across your whole firm. If you've already got it, get it through there for the updated link. or if you save the email from the original purchase, it'll be there too. I did want to mention a workflow for you so you can understand how this can best be used in your company as a part of your content management process. I'm not just randomly reloading families into a project. Normally, I'm doing repairs on them. And for repairing, I would recommend you consider taking a look at the BIM Manager Suite. You can also get this from our website. We've recently done a webinar on this tool. It's called Family Processor. This tool can help you batch change things for those standards across your network. Before that even, you may want to take a look at the Shared Parameter Manager to make sure your standards are what you expect them to be for the shared parameters, push them into the families, and then use the family loader to reload those into a number of active projects to make sure they're all using the correct standards. And maybe you've got content in projects you need to harvest first and then fix. Well, that's the Family Exporter tool. We've already done a webinar on that one as well. Go take a look at that. You can export families out of a project very easily, very cleanly. That's how I harvested my families today. I can then family process them, fix them all up. So like that manufacturer content or outside, stuff that comes from other sources, fix it all up, and then turn right back around and reload it right back in. That's one of the best ways of using these tools. Export, fix them, assuming your shared parameters are all nice and neat, reload them back in. You can get content fixed in a morning instead of taking a couple of days or weeks or sometimes months or years. Literally, you can fix content in a morning and get them pushed right back into your projects and be ready to continue doing work. So these tools are built to save you time. In this case, the tool we talked about today, the Family Loader, is built around the concept of saving you time in that reload process. Thank you so much and have a fantastic day.